The air inside the shelter felt thick with the weight of sadness, like it had been holding its breath for far too long. As the mother and daughter walked through the building, every step echoed through the hallways, making the entire place feel even more lifeless. Rows upon rows of metal cages lined the walls, each one holding a dog that seemed to have no hope left. Their eyes reflected a deep sorrow, the kind that only comes from prolonged abandonment and despair. The cold fluorescent lights above flickered intermittently, casting harsh, sterile shadows across the concrete floor. The smell of disinfectant and loneliness hung heavily in the air, making the shelter feel even colder than it already was. This was no place for joy. It was a place where dreams went to die and hope was a distant memory. Max, a large German shepherd, lay curled up in the farthest cage. His body was covered with scars, some old and faded, others fresh, as if they were reminders of the brutality he had endured. His once powerful frame was now frail, his fur matted and thin. Max had been through unimaginable pain, both physical and emotional, and now he was a shadow of the dog he had once been. He had become known as the angry dog at the shelter. His fierce, protective eyes, once filled with pride and strength, were now filled with pain, distrust, and fear. His growls echoed in the shelter whenever anyone ventured too close, sending even the bravest volunteers running in the other direction. He had been through so much, and now he was more broken than anyone could have imagined. Max wasn't just a victim of his circumstances. He had become a prisoner of his own fear. But despite the overwhelming pain and anger that surrounded him, deep inside Max's heart, buried beneath the layers of trauma, there was still a flicker of something good, something waiting to be awakened, something that only someone special could see. Sophia, a kind-hearted woman with a natural love for animals, pushed the door open and stepped into the shelter. Holding her daughter Emma's hand, she entered with a feeling of apprehension in her chest. Emma, her 3-year-old daughter, was a gentle soul who seemed to have an almost magical connection with animals. No matter how anxious, scared, or aggressive a creature was, Emma had the ability to calm them, with just a few soft words and a gentle touch. Sophia had always been amazed by Emma's ability to connect with animals in a way that no one else could, and today, she hoped that Emma could learn about compassion and the importance of helping those in need. Sophia didn't know if Emma was ready to see the full impact of the cruelty in the world, but she felt it was time for her daughter to experience how powerful love and kindness could be. As they walked through the shelter, the barking of other dogs filled the air, creating a sense of chaos and urgency. But Emma, with her quiet and composed nature, wasn't frightened by the noise. Instead, her eyes were filled with curiosity, scanning each cage and its occupant with a gentle wonder. Her small hand clutched her mother's as they walked deeper into the shelter, the cold metal of the cages giving way to the stark reality of the animals within. In the farthest cage, they found Max. At first, Sophia stopped dead in her tracks. She had heard the rumors about the dog in the very last cage, the one no one wanted to approach. She had heard the warnings, the stories of his aggression, of how his fierce growls had frightened even the most experienced shelter workers. She instinctively pulled Emma a little closer, wanting to protect her from what could potentially be a dangerous situation. Max's reputation had spread far beyond the shelter walls. He had been in the shelter for far too long, and the longer he stayed, the more it seemed like no one could help him. But Emma, despite her small stature, didn't back away. She wasn't afraid. Instead, her eyes locked onto Max's, and she held his gaze without flinching. There was something about this dog, something that connected her to him in a way she didn't fully understand. Max growled softly, a low rumbling sound that vibrated through the air. But Emma didn't move away. She didn't show fear or hesitation. Instead, she simply took a step forward, her small feet padding softly against the cold floor. She was calm, unbothered by the danger others feared. She didn't see Max as the angry dog. She saw him as a soul in pain, a soul who needed help. Sophia watched in disbelief as Emma, despite all the warnings and dangers, took another step closer to Max. She wanted to stop her, to tell her it was too risky, but Emma's bravery stopped her in her tracks. This was her daughter, a child who, against all logic and reason, was drawn to a dog that others feared. "Mommy," Emma whispered softly, her voice barely audible. "He's sad. I can tell." Sophia's heart ached at her daughter's words. She hadn't expected this reaction. She had expected Emma to be frightened, perhaps even unwilling to go near the animal who had frightened everyone else. But instead, Emma saw something different in Max's eyes. She saw sadness, not aggression. She saw fear, not fury. Emma wasn't afraid of him. She wasn't afraid of the past that had made him so angry. She only saw a dog who needed help. She saw a dog who needed love. "Emma, you don't have to go near him," Sophia said softly, her voice filled with concern. "He's been through a lot. We don't know if he'll hurt you." But Emma shook her head, her expression firm but gentle. "He's scared, Mommy. He's not bad. He just needs a friend." Despite her mother's worries, Emma couldn't look away from Max. He wasn't just another sad dog to her. He was something more. He was a creature in pain. And in that moment, she made a decision that would change everything. Emma was going to be his friend. She didn't move quickly, though. She knew she had to be slow, gentle, and patient. Max had been hurt by people before. He had been abandoned, mistreated, and misunderstood. She knew that the more she rushed, the more scared he would become. Emma sat down on the cold floor, her small body still, her eyes never leaving Max's. She slowly held out her hand to him, her palm open and inviting, her fingers trembling just slightly, unsure but hopeful. Max growled again, but this time it was softer, less threatening. His body was stiff, his muscles tense, as though he was ready to spring into action at the slightest provocation. But Emma didn't flinch. She didn't move away. She just sat there, waiting. She waited for him to decide that he could trust her, that she wasn't like the others. Sophia's heart raced in her chest as she watched her daughter. Every instinct as a mother told her to pull Emma away, to keep her safe. But as she saw Emma's unwavering trust and love for this broken dog, something shifted inside her. She wasn't sure what was happening, but she knew she had to trust Emma. She had to let her make this connection. For what seemed like an eternity, nothing happened. Max just stared at Emma's outstretched hand, his eyes flicking between her face and the gesture of friendship she offered. But then, slowly, tentatively, Max took a step forward. His movements were stiff and cautious, but there was something in the way he moved that told Emma he was considering her offer. He sniffed her hand, and when Emma didn't move or show fear, Max took another step closer. Sophia watched in awe as Max's growl softened and his body began to relax. Emma smiled softly, her face lighting up with joy, and for the first time, Max's eyes softened. He wasn't just the angry dog anymore. He was a dog in pain, but he was a dog who could be healed. As the days passed, Sophia noticed a change in Max. He was still cautious, still distant at times, but he wasn't the same dog he had been when he first arrived at the shelter. The transformation was slow but undeniable. Max was beginning to trust, to let his guard down, especially around Emma. One day, while Emma played with Max in the yard outside the shelter, Sophia asked one of the workers about his past. She wanted to know more about what had brought Max to this point, why he was so broken, so angry. The worker took a deep breath before speaking, and the truth slowly started to come out. Max hadn't always been like this. He wasn't just a random stray. Max had once been a service dog, trained to protect and serve alongside special forces. He had worked on dangerous missions, saving lives and putting his own at risk for the sake of others. But in one of the missions, Max had witnessed a traumatic event. His handler was gravely injured, and Max had been left behind. He had been traumatized, and his life had changed forever. After his service, Max was adopted by a family, but they didn't understand the scars he carried, both emotional and physical. Max had been abandoned again, left to fend for himself, and that was when he had ended up in the shelter. Sophia was stunned. Max wasn't just any dog, he was a hero. But his trauma had left him isolated and alone, unsure of how to trust again. With this newfound understanding, Sophia began to see Max in a whole new light. No longer did she view him simply as a dog with a broken spirit. Instead, she saw him as a warrior, a protector who had endured unimaginable hardship. Max had once been a dog who faced battles both on and off the field, a dog who had been trained to defend and serve, but who had also been deeply wounded by betrayal and loss. Sophia came to realize that, in order for Max to heal completely, he needed more than just physical care and attention. He needed love, genuine, unconditional love. He needed someone to believe in him, to restore the trust he had lost in both humans and himself. As the days turned into weeks, Max's transformation became increasingly evident. The once ferocious growls that had signaled his anger and fear were replaced with soft whimpers, a sign of vulnerability rather than aggression. His eyes, which had once been clouded with distrust and resentment, now reflected something gentler, something that seemed to hold a quiet gratitude, perhaps even a hint of hope. Max's physical injuries began to heal steadily, thanks to the dedicated care of the veterinarians, but it was his emotional wounds that truly began to close with each passing day. Every kind word spoken by Emma, every gentle stroke of her hand on his fur, and every moment she spent sitting by his side without fear, without hesitation, wove a bond of trust and affection between them. Sophia watched in awe as Emma, with her remarkable patience and unwavering resilience, became the catalyst for Max's healing. It was through Emma's love and determination that Max was able to rediscover the safety and warmth he had once known. Every day, she saw her daughter talk to him softly, reassure him with her gentle touch, and simply be present with him. And with each passing day, Max grew more and more into the dog he had been meant to be: trusting, loyal, and filled with the kind of love that only time, patience, and the right person could nurture back into existence. One evening, as the golden hues of the setting sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the room, Emma sat on the couch, her head gently resting on Max's side. Max, once a dog full of fear and aggression, now lay beside her, his head nestled comfortably in her lap. There was an unmistakable calmness about him, a sense of peace that had not been there before. For the first time since he had come into their lives, Max looked truly content. His eyes were closed, his body relaxed, and he breathed deeply, letting out a soft, peaceful sigh, as if the weight of the world had finally lifted off his shoulders. Sophia stood quietly in the doorway, her heart swelling with emotion as she watched the bond between her daughter and the dog. In that moment, she understood something deeply profound. This was the moment when Max had truly healed. It wasn't just about the physical scars he had overcome or the struggles he had faced. It was about the connection he had forged with Emma. It was about the trust they had built together, the trust that allowed Max to finally let go of his past and embrace the love that surrounded him. And above all, it was about the love that flowed between them, the pure, unconditional love that had allowed them both to heal and grow. Just when everything seemed to be falling into place, a man unexpectedly appeared at the shelter. He was a former military handler, someone who had once worked closely with Max. The man explained that Max had been a part of an elite special forces unit, trained for dangerous missions in the military. He had served with dedication and bravery, risking his life time and again. However, when the handler had been severely injured in the line of duty, Max had been left behind, abandoned by the very people who he had once fought beside. The man had come searching for Max, offering to take him back into his care. He promised Max a life of comfort and security, one that would be free from danger and filled with the care he deserved. At first, Sophia was deeply torn. She didn't know if she could let go of the dog who had become such an integral part of their family. Max had brought them so much love and protection, and the thought of giving him up was incredibly difficult. But as she watched Max nuzzle Emma's face with a deep sense of affection, something within Sophia clicked. In that moment, it became clear. Max had already made his choice. He had chosen Emma, and Emma had chosen him. Their bond was undeniable, built on trust, love, and shared healing. Max didn't need to go back to his past. That chapter of his life was over. He had found the family who would truly care for him, the people who had given him a second chance at life. Max belonged here, with the family who had stood by him through thick and thin, and that's where he would stay. Sophia stood firm in her decision. She had made up her mind she would adopt Max. Despite the inevitable challenges that lay ahead, the potential costs and the lingering doubts that sometimes clouded her thoughts, she was resolute. In her heart, she knew that Max was meant to be a part of their family. He had already done so much for them. He had saved them in ways they couldn't have imagined, offering them love, protection, and healing when they needed it most. He had given them a sense of security and a bond that went beyond words. And now she realized it was their turn to offer him the same in return. It was their chance to show him the unconditional love and care that he had so selflessly provided to them. Max had found his place with them, and it was time for them to truly make him a part of their forever home. With each passing day, Max's healing journey progressed, and he blossomed in ways that no one could have predicted. As time went on, he grew increasingly protective of his family, ever vigilant and attentive to their every move. He became their silent guardian, always watching over them with a watchful eye, ready to step in whenever danger loomed. Max wasn't just a dog that had been rescued from his past. He had found his true purpose. He was a dog with a mission, a loyal companion who had discovered his rightful place in the world, a place where he could make a difference. Emma, ever devoted and full of compassion, continued to nurture Max with all the love she had to offer. Her care for him never wavered, and each day she fed him, played with him, and showered him with affection. Her love was unconditional, and she gave it freely, without a second thought. In turn, Max's devotion deepened. He became more than just a pet. He transformed into something far greater, a hero in his own right. He was a protector, a steadfast guardian who would do anything to keep his family safe from harm. Max had found his calling, and nothing would ever change his unwavering commitment to his family. One afternoon, as Emma joyfully played in the yard, a neighbor's dog, known for its aggressive nature, suddenly broke free from its leash and began charging straight toward her. The air was thick with tension, and Emma froze in fear, not knowing what to do. Max, however, immediately sensed the imminent danger and without hesitation sprang into action. With a powerful bark that echoed through the yard, he rushed toward the oncoming threat, positioning himself protectively between Emma and the aggressive dog. His body was tense, muscles coiled and ready to defend as he stood tall, exuding an aura of unwavering determination and authority. The aggressive dog, sensing Max's strength and unyielding presence, abruptly stopped in its tracks, its aggressive energy faltering. Max, with his courage and loyalty, had successfully shielded Emma from harm, ensuring her safety in that crucial moment. As the family gathered together, reflecting on their shared journey, Sophia found herself overwhelmed with a deep sense of gratitude. In that moment, she realized just how profoundly Max had changed their lives, in ways she had never truly anticipated. It was Max who had been the one to save them, offering them the hope and strength they desperately needed. And in return, by opening their hearts to him, they had unknowingly saved him as well. Sophia's gaze swept over her family, her beloved daughter, her loyal dog Max, and herself, and she couldn't help but be struck by the beauty of the realization that sometimes the animals we believe need our rescue are the very ones who end up rescuing us. It was in that moment of profound insight that Sophia finally felt a deep sense of peace settle within her heart. Max, once uncertain and lost, had now found his second chance at life, and in doing so, he had given his family the most precious gift of all, the purest, most unconditional love that could ever be shared. If you were moved by Max's incredible journey of healing and the power of love, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this touching story of compassion, trust, and second chances. And make sure to subscribe for more heartwarming stories that inspire change and bring joy. Your support means the world to us.